The number of lies that can be concealed under the term family will astound you. I wasn't. No more. There was a favorite of my parents. Did every time. My younger sister, the golden one, was named Emily, and I was the one who had to put in extra hours to make ends meet. She married into a wealthy family and became the pride of the family right away. As if she had planned her route to success, they said things like, "She married smart, and look how happy she is." As though being a well-groomed wife was a profession deserving of adoration. In her entire life, Emily had never had a legitimate job. In order to pay my rent, I was working 12-hour days at a corporate job and barely making ends meet with student loans, insurance, bills, and no help from anyone. And for whatever reason, I was still supposed to save everyone else. The pivotal moment? The night was a Tuesday, approximately 11:30 p.m. My phone rang while I was half asleep and suffering from a dull migraine. It was my mother. She didn't greet me, just went into full-blown panic mode. "Your dad lost his job, Liv. We are unsure about what to do. The house, the expenses. We might lose everything." I felt sick to my stomach. I could hear the despair in her voice, even if she was partly sleeping. And my mouth said, "You can't afford this," despite the fact that every cell in my body cried out, "Mom, don't worry. I'll assist. I will prevent you from losing the house." In an instant, I was in. I sent them $1,000 by wire the following morning. No inquiries were made. Just lend a hand. You do that for your family, don't you? However, it didn't end there. It was something every week. "This month's electric bill is high. Your dad's medications aren't covered. Or Liv, we need a little extra to stay afloat." I also gave. And donated. And donated. Skipped coffee. Delayed auto repairs. Lived in pinchy, poor shoes. However, I gave. Emily and her husband were traveling by plane at the same time. New purses. Pictures from brunch. Her life was a blog about lifestyle. It was a silent sacrifice on my part. My mother would always say the following when I visited: "Emily never needs to worry, you know. She made the perfect choice in a man." She would say it in a kind way, as if she had no knife in her mouth. I grinned. I bit my tongue. "Yeah, because she doesn't lift a damn finger," was not stated. Rather, I put in more effort. I sent more. It added up over time. One day, I discovered that I had sent more than $50,000 in less than a year when I looked at my bank statements. 50. 1,000. Money. I was still the afterthought, though. Then came the actual blow. One evening, while crying, my mom texted me, "We're short, and your dad needs his prescription. Please, only $200. I moved it right away. I didn't blink. However, 2 days later, as I was eating leftovers in my one-bedroom apartment and browsing Instagram, I noticed Emily, on a F-King yacht that is, with my parents. Champagne, high-end sunglasses. The process. The caption? "Family vacation in Florida." Blessed, I felt like I might break a molar because of how tightly my jaw clenched. I enlarged the picture. My mother was holding Emily in her arm. My father was grinning as if he hadn't just pleaded with me for groceries. Emily resembled a trophy wife in a travel advertisement. My thumb lingered motionless over the screen. I had a hollow chest. They had informed me that they were unable to pay for medication. However, the daughter who had never sent them a dime was with them on a lavish yacht. I refrained from crying. I refrained from screaming. I simply sat there, totally numb, until I wasn't. I gave my mother a call that evening. "Hey, this weekend I'm considering hosting a small dinner at my house. Only us." She paused. "Oh, darling, I'm not sure. I've been feeling ill all week, as has your father, or simply worn out." I spoke in a flat tone. "Well, if you need food and medication, I can deliver them." She jumped right in. No, don't bother yourself. Perhaps you could send a small amount for the medication if you wish to assist." "How much?" I inquired. "It should be covered by $300. I promised to send it to her. After that, I hung up, got my keys, and got behind the wheel. Not to their home. Regarding their neighbor, Mr. Harrison, a kind old man who taught biology in high school. In his garden, always. He smiled as he answered the door. "Olivia, I haven't seen you for a long time." I gave a little smile in return. Hi, Mr. Harrison. I would like to know how my folks are doing this week. Leaning on his cane, he laughed. They only returned yesterday. They appeared to have had a great time. I believe you traveled to Florida with your sister and her husband. Something broke inside of me. Not too loudly. Not with fireworks. The break was calm, like a chair leg collapsing under someone who is already too exhausted to continue standing. Thank you, I replied. That's incredibly beneficial. The following morning, I headed directly to their home. In the driveway was their vehicle. The porch chair had a sun hat on it, the same one Emily had on in that picture. I knocked. My mother responded with a dazzling smile that vanished as soon as she noticed my face. Liv, you failed to notify me of your arrival. I returned the smile. Close. I just wanted to see how you were doing. You claimed to be ill. She stammered out a falsehood about being tired, stressed, or something else. I entered. The house was immaculate, half unpacked suitcases by the door. At the dinner table, a cork for champagne. I looked over at her. So, Mom, how was the trip? She stopped. What journey? I chuckled. Chilly. Sharp. The Florida one. With Emily. The one you pretended to be too ill for. Remember when you demanded $300 from me for phony medication? The color left her face. My father scowled when he saw me coming out of the kitchen. Olivia, what is this attitude? My voice was calm and lethal as I turned to face him. The daughter who gave you $50,000 while you were drinking champagne and lying to her face has this attitude. My mother let out a gasp. You're exaggerating this much, Liv. I gave her a stern look. No. Simply put, you're not used to me being honest with you. I took out my phone, launched my banking app, and canceled each automatic transfer in front of them both. The voice of my mother shattered. Please, Liv, don't do this. That money is necessary. I put my phone in my pocket, then asked Emily. I then left. I wasn't broke for the first time in years, or less, or imperceptible. I felt strong. However, I was aware that this was just the start. Cutting out $50,000 in free money should cause folks to think twice. Think about it. If we're in fantasy world, I apologize. However, no. Liars are more persistent in real life. Emily arrived at my flat 3 days after I left that residence. Suddenly, not even a text. She knocked as if we were still in 2008, and we were in the same room as a Jonas Brothers poster that was taped to the wall. She was standing there in a linen pantsuit, holding an iced matcha as if it were a damn courtroom exhibit. When I answered the door, "Can we have a conversation?" That was her tone when she stated it. "You're aware of it. While accusing you of ruining everything, I'll pretend to be calm." She wasn't invited in. I simply folded my arms. "Speak." She sent out a sigh as though I were being challenging. "You brought Mom to tears." She told lies. "We're even, I believe." As if it still belonged to her, she pushed past me and entered my apartment. Normal. Nothing had changed about her. She surveyed the area as if cataloging the modesty of everything. No countertops made of marble. No personal chef. Just myself, my independence, and my used furniture. She put down her glass as if she lived here and remarked, "You didn't have to be so dramatic. You made them feel ashamed." I kept my arms crossed and leaned against the wall. They made a fool of themselves. I simply stopped giving the show money. She gave an eye roll. "Liv, they're old. They're afraid. You are aware of Dad's health problems." I interrupted her. Don't. Don't make me feel bad about that. Not after I paid for all of the doctor visits, prescription drugs, and lies. I was told while on your yacht." She winced, but she got over it fast. Every time, she made a return. Despite being the baby, she always had that big sister energy. When your parents give you the world for simply existing, that is what occurs. Look, I'm not saying that everything went flawlessly. I laughed at that. Just right? They defrauded me of $50,000 by manipulating my emotions. When you were on brunch trips and boats. She moved, now folding her arms. She could feel the walls closing in on her. You give the impression that I requested that. I gave her a chilly look. You were not required to. The love is with you. I received the bills. Her jaw dropped. Closed. No clever reply this time. We remained silent. The air conditioner turned on. My refrigerator was humming. Then she said something that caught me off guard. Liv, you've always been upset. I cocked my head. And you've been unaware all along. She didn't answer. Simply turn your head away. Perhaps she didn't know the answers for once. She turned to face me before she departed and said, You realize that you can't simply break off your family for good? And I just said, Observe me. The door was not slammed by her. She refrained from crying. She simply walked out, and for a moment, I believed that may be it. Perhaps the storm was over. Perhaps they would now stop bothering me and resume acting as though I didn't exist. However, they didn't. Naturally, they didn't. My mom's sister called me the following day. Carla, Aunt. She abruptly blew up my phone as if I had committed some grave offense, even though I hadn't heard from her in years. I just wanted to let you know, Olivia, that your mother is really upset. She believes that you have abandoned her. I felt like screaming, or chuckle, or toss the phone into a body of water. Rather, I asked, Did she mention the $50,000 stow you? Carla hesitated, then became better. Well, she said there was some assistance, but families have difficult times. It was there. The screenplay. The blood is more viscous. Act like the bigger guy. First, family. Blah, blah, blah. Carla, I answered, remaining composed. If someone lied to you for months, would you still give them $50,000? She didn't say anything. Exactly, I replied. She should stop sending messengers, you say. I then hung up. The problem with setting boundaries is that initially, individuals don't respect them. They believe it to be a phase, a fit, a show. They anticipate your stumbling return, with guilt dragging you along like a ball and chain. However, I was no longer crawling. I was on foot, standing, inhaling, perhaps alone, but at last, free. A week went by. No phone calls. Don't text. It was quiet. Odd. It's almost as if you're in a foreign nation where nobody knows your name. However, I adapted to it. I had a job, slept, have actual meals once more. Payday anxiety and instant noodles are over. I even realized that I hadn't laughed at a stupid sitcom in months. Then the email arrived, from a name I was unfamiliar with. Update on family trust is the subject line. My stomach clenched. I opened it by clicking, and I read 3 lines that infuriated me. We are updating the family trust fund's legal beneficiaries at this time. Your removal has been documented per Mr. and Mrs. Garrison's instructions. If you think something is incorrect, do get in touch with us. Elimination from a trust that I was unaware of. It seems that I had previously been named as a partial recipient of a small fortune that my grandfather had left me. It's not life-altering, but it's significant enough. Lost. As simple as that. Deleted. No conversation. Not a warning. Only the most recent line in their quiet conflict. I refrained from crying. I didn't become angry. I simply sat there and gazed at the television, contemplating. Thus, this is their identity. They will accept your generosity, your funds, your time. And when do you say no at last? Forever saying yes? You are punished. I shut down the laptop, made a cup of tea. With the mug in my hands, I sat on the floor and allowed the silence to envelop me like a blanket. The temperature was warm, heavy, not oppressive though, no more. And in that silence, I came to the realization that they had had enough of me. However, I had already finished them. After the final cut, there's this strange moment when the texts cease. The guilt trips are over. Stop making phony check-in calls, and you're all by yourself. Not in the sad background violins kind. Just be quiet. It's as if someone turned down the volume on your life and neglected to crank it back up. That was how I felt when I received the notification about the trust fund. I didn't answer, didn't compose a grandiose, irate response. What could be said? I was erased. There was no need for me to yell. They were already familiar with their actions. I thus did something unexpected for them. I survived. Not retaliation, not conflict, only me. I began by making a move. Not very fancy. A modest, peaceful one-bedroom in a community where greetings still start with good morning. Although it wasn't as polished as Emily's view of the high-rise, it was mine. They earned every square foot. Not talented. Not passed down. I maintained my employment, took up a side project that I had been afraid to attempt, providing NGOs with freelance strategy consulting. Soulful but lowly paid. I didn't feel like I was living with one foot on the ground, ready to leap up, ready to respond, and ready to save someone who wouldn't even say thank you. For the first time in a very long time, the family no longer relied on me as their first responder, and I began to develop into my own. Weeks passed before the anxiety subsided, the want to look at my phone, to wait for another demand, to put out another fire that I was supposed to do with my own tears and gas money. However, it went by. Eventually, dull things brought me calm. Groceries, doing laundry in the daytime, preparing real food. I acquired the skill of roasting veggies. I didn't kill the real plant I purchased. It wasn't the phony IKEA variety. The things that seem like turning points when you're recovering from emotional bankruptcy are amusing. I kept it a secret. Not pals, not colleagues. At first, not even my therapist. I simply lived it. Then Emily texted me one day, after being silent for about a month. Hey, may I give you a call? I gazed at the display. I spent at least 20 minutes sitting with it. Next, I typed, why? She answered right away. It has nothing to do with mom and dad. It concerns me, I answered. Okay, against my better judgment. That night, she gave a call. She spoke more softly than usual. I am expecting a child. Quiet, I didn't offer congrats. Not quite yet, she continued. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm afraid, and I hoped you may understand. I bided my time for the catch, anticipated the guilt bomb, awaiting the deceptive lure. However, it never materialized. She simply broke down in tears, claimed to be lost, claimed to have missed me. And I heard her voice without the golden child armor for the first time in a long time. Don't boast. Steer clear of sugar. It was only a woman who realized that the pedestal was unstable, and perhaps never was. I took a while to forgive her. I haven't decided yet. However, I paid attention, since I work in that field. Upon finishing her tears, she uttered, Liv, you were always the one with strength. I simply acted more confident. That was a powerful blow. She didn't request money from me, or assist, or pardon. Only room to be human. I also gave it to her, because despite the fact that our parents treated me like a commodity, I never lost my humanity. I didn't give her an open door, though. Not quite yet, because there's a reason why some doors remain closed. And if somebody wishes to return, they rap. They bide their time. They deserve it. I had a cup of tea and sat by the window later that evening. Rain was falling. The kind of rain that simultaneously feels heavy and soft. And I became aware of something I hadn't mentioned aloud. They weren't missed by me. Being the fixer wasn't something I missed. I didn't miss my role as the trustworthy, accountable, and unflappable person who would stick by me no matter how poorly they treated me. I didn't get noticed. Not by them, though. I had been attempting to win the affection of those who viewed me as a valuable asset for a very long time. I was now learning how to show myself that love. It moved slowly. I could still hear the echo of duty on some evenings. I would get the old twitch when I saw a voicemail from Mom, the one that said, maybe she changed. Maybe she's sorry this time. I would, however, breathe, then press the erase button. Not with malice, but because I was at last satisfied enough to stop chasing after scraps. The absence of self-explanation brings a peculiar sense of tranquility. I once believed that a talk was necessary for closure. I apologize. A reckoning. Closure, however, can occasionally simply mean no more reacting. It's feeling nothing when you see your mother's name appear on your phone. No fear, no interest. There is no hope. Simply be silent. I was there, not resentful, not upset, just finished. In the best sense, my universe had shrunk. Less calls, less deception. Space, job I cared about, a leisurely morning ritual, and just me. Room to breathe, to reflect, to live one's life without continuously serving others. Naturally, they then made an attempt to return. The season was early spring, the kind when the air still stings but flowers begin to bloom. I was volunteering at a community workshop for a local organization that I had been doing part-time work for. For women entering the workforce again, we were organizing a career training event. I saw him at that point. My dad, standing outside the doors made of glass. Like a haunting, he stood there with his hands in his coat pockets. My stomach remained upright. My hands remained steady. I simply blinked. He had yet to see me. I went outside and turned to face the head organizer after telling him I will return in 5. He appeared older, smaller, more like someone who didn't know how to ask for aid without a price tag attached, rather than the man who used to frighten rooms. He repeated, Olivia, as if it still had meaning. I waited. No embrace. No grin. Only the silence between us and years of unspoken words. He remarked, I heard you're doing good, aiding others. I gave a nod. You have our admiration. I laughed at that. A gentle whiff via my nostrils. Not cruel, just exhausted. Are you now proud? I inquired. He didn't answer, so I continued. Without saying anything, you betrayed my faith. You witnessed Mom deceive me. While on vacation with Emily, you allowed me to pay your expenses. He parted his lips. I closed it. Finally, he admitted, I know we made mistakes. I cocked my head. Which ones? He didn't respond, as he was unable to, or wouldn't. He remarked, we were afraid. We were clueless about what we were doing. He wasn't apologetic. I realized after giving him a close look. He was simply getting older, fading, facing repercussions rather than regret. I let the quiet speak for itself. Finally, he stated, You are missed by your mother. I gave another nod. Inform her that I'm doing fine. I also hope that she is. He gave me the impression that he was unsure of how to respond to that, as there was nothing left to do. No harm to manage. No need to ask for money. No daughter is available. Simply put, she was a woman who created something without waiting for excuses. Prior to his departure, he stated, We were mistaken. Regarding the way we handled you. I looked him in the eye. Indeed, you were. I then made my way back inside, didn't weep, didn't recoil, didn't feel devoid. I felt complete. Emily texted me later that evening. Only a picture, a newborn, bundled up in a cozy blanket. Her chest was cradled by tiny hands. The caption read, Her name is Grace. I spent some time looking at the screen. No invitation. Don't ask. Only a sacrifice. It felt different because of that. I answered, She is stunning. Congratulations. No emoji of a heart, no assurances, just the facts. She only sent one message in response. I'm grateful for staying when you had every right to leave. I also came to the following realization. Perhaps we had both matured. Without the familial drama between us, perhaps we were finally seeing one other for who we truly were. I took my time going. I never requested to hold the infant. However, something changed. No reunion, no reset. Simply show respect. And it felt reciprocal for the first time in my life. When you're healing, time does this weird thing. It no longer entertains others. It stops running in the direction of everyone's expectations. Simply put, it slows down, becomes yours. Following that past spring, that is what transpired. I didn't try to get back in touch. Didn't make grandiose claims about beginning anew or going no contact. I just stopped giving pieces of myself to those who didn't treat them with respect. And I rebuilt in that silence. It wasn't glitzy. It wasn't noisy. It involved budgeting and grocery shopping. Refusing to attend dinners that I didn't want to. I'm sleeping with my phone away from my bed. I laughed without anticipating that someone would call and ask for money. It was a life, silently returning to me. I occasionally heard from Emily. Minor modifications. Milestones for babies. She didn't press. Unlike in movies, she didn't act like we were sisters. To be honest, I held her in higher regard for that than for anything else she had ever accomplished. She once shared a picture of Grace wearing a yellow onesie, clutching a plastic spoon, and appearing utterly unconcerned with the situation in the world. That one I kept. I enjoyed the lesson that life goes on whether you're ready or not because I felt like an aunt. My folks, they dimmed. The calls ceased. There were no letters, no invitations for the holidays, no justifications, nothing but quiet. Additionally, it was the most truthful gift they had ever given me, because we were all speaking the truth in our own unique ways for the first time, them by allowing me to leave. Me, by never returning. That, in my opinion, is the aspect of family stories that nobody discusses. Reconciliation is desired by all, an emotional embrace in the kitchen. Some last minute admission that makes everything better. But occasionally, reconciliation does not equal peace, it's distance. Because you've already given the past enough of your future, you're allowing it to remain behind you. Recently, I received an offer for a new job, greater pay and more flexible work schedules. A manager that respects my time without acting as though he's doing me a favor. I accepted it. I currently rent a modest home close to the lake. In the mornings, I take a stroll there. Observe the river flowing without hurry. It's never still, yet it's also never in a hurry. It simply is. Similar to me, I once believed that I required justice. I needed someone to tell me that I was correct. We were mistaken. We apologize. I realize now that I don't. I am aware of who I am. I am aware of what I contributed. And I am aware that the loudest statement of my self-respect I have ever made was letting them leave, peacefully, and without a fight. The knowledge that they had someone who would have done anything for them should make them uncomfortable. If they do remember me at all, and eventually discovered not to, one cannot purchase that type of independence. Not with regrets, not when it comes to inheritance. Particularly not with love that arrives 20 years too late. I wasn't the fallback option. The basis was me. When did they tear it down? I created something more robust. Not for them. For me.